When Steve Jobs revolutionized the smartphone market by introducing the iPhone in 2007, no one could have predicted that 15 years later, these devices would have such an impact on our lives and our mental health. Of course, the phones themselves are not the problem, but social media, which developed on these devices, are, and their influence became especially clear during the 2020 pandemic. At that time, when we were stuck at home, social media completely reshaped our lives in a way even Steve Jobs couldn't have predicted. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and other apps became a part of our daily lives. And by 2021, TikTok had overtaken Google as the most visited site in the world. Today, the most common dream of the younger generation is to become an influencer. And trust me, we do not realize the consequences of that. Research from the University of Pennsylvania showed that limiting time on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok to 30 minutes a day can reduce symptoms of depression and loneliness by as much as 30%. Another study by the American Journal of Preventive Medicine found that people who spent the most time on social media were twice as likely to have problems with self-esteem and depression than those who used it rarely. Enough about statistics. Let's look at ourselves. Check now how much time you spend each day scrolling through these apps. Are you surprised by the result? We often do this without even noticing in what we call meantime. For example, while riding the bus, during a break at work, before going to sleep, in moments that once could have been used to build relationships or grow ourselves, we now reach for our phones. The meantime no longer exists. Social media has completely filled it. It's a terrible loss because in those moments we could gain the most, meet new people, learn something new, or just have a moment for ourselves to gather our thoughts, which we now push aside to watch content. Speaking of content, most of the content you see on social media isn't real. The lifestyle you see on TikTok or Instagram is usually a very idealized version of reality. Those 10-second clips, pictures of beautiful people with perfect smiles, skin, and bodies, that's not real life. These are images meant to make us feel admiration, jealousy, or even frustration, so we'll want to consume more of that content. Now think, if you consume this content every day, how does it affect you? First, it clutters your brain with cheap dopamine, making you lose motivation to act. You don't feel like doing anything more than what you have to. Your brain gets used to easy rewards from one hit of dopamine to the next. So you not only stop growing because lack of motivation, but also new problems arise in your life, and you have neither the time nor the energy to solve them. Dopamine is a key neurotransmitter for many processes related to motivation, rewards, and feelings of pleasure. Dopamine works in a way that when we do something that makes us feel good, like achieving success, eating a tasty meal, or exercising, our brain rewards us with a burst of dopamine, making us feel good and want to repeat these actions in the future. However, today, when social media is at our fingertips, our brain is bombarded with easy hits of dopamine. When we scroll TikTok or Instagram and find something we like, for example, a funny video, an interesting picture, a positive comment, our brain takes this as small rewards, and dopamine is released every time we get that stimulation. This process doesn't require any effort from us, which leads to a situation where we easily turn to social media to feel good, without the need to do things that actually help us grow or bring long-term benefits. The problem is that when our brain gets used to regular, fast hits of dopamine, it changes the way it works. Instead of motivating us to aim for long-term goals, the brain starts to look for instant gratification. We want the next video, the next picture, the next reward. This causes our motivation to do things that require more effort, like learning, gaining new skills, or even talking to people, to drop. Often we feel a lack of energy to do important tasks because our brain gets lazy in chasing easy sources of dopamine. Another effect of this process is the decrease in our ability to feel satisfaction from everyday activities. When we're constantly used to high stimulation from social media, things that once made us happy, like meeting friends, reading books, or spending time outdoors, may stop feeling so satisfying. Our brain expects more and more stimulation, making us feel empty when it's missing. Then we reach for our phone again, creating a vicious cycle. By the way, you might notice that lately, even when you're hanging out with friends or spending time with family, you check your phone. Sometimes, out of boredom, you even open one of the apps. Because of too much dopamine from social media, the brain can get stuck in a constant craving for more stimuli. This leads to problems with focus, lower motivation, and feeling less happy with everyday activities. Luckily, balancing dopamine in our system isn't as hard as it might seem. Dopamine detox means limiting access to quick dopamine sources to reset our reward system and bring back balance to the brain. The goal is to stop the overwhelming stimuli that give us quick pleasures, like scrolling through social media, watching shorts, TikToks, Reels, or any activity that gives instant dopamine hits. This reset helps our brain slowly recover the ability to feel satisfied from more complex and long-term activities that are healthy and beneficial for us. How does dopamine detox work? When we stop giving our brain too much easy dopamine, at first we might feel uncomfortable, restless, unsatisfied, or bored. This is normal because the brain needs time to adjust to a new, more balanced way of working. Limiting these stimuli allows the brain to become more sensitive to dopamine, meaning we will start feeling more joy from simpler, natural activities like talking to friends, going for a walk, or working toward long-term goals. A dopamine detox is a process you can adjust to your needs and abilities. Start by thinking about which activities give you too much quick dopamine. It could be social media, scrolling apps, reading comments, eating junk food, or constantly checking your phone. The key is to understand which of these activities take up your time and energy while giving you very little in return. Start by limiting or completely removing these stimulating activities for a short time, like for one day or a weekend. During this time, focus on activities that require more effort, but give more rewarding results in the long run. This could be learning something new, exercising, reading, writing, or even just thinking about your future plans and paying more attention to your own thoughts. These are activities that don't give instant satisfaction, but build a long-lasting sense of value and offer a healthier source of dopamine. After the detox period, you can slowly bring some elements of technology back into your life, but in a more controlled way. It's important to use social media mindfully, like setting a time limit or only using it at certain times of the day. This will help you avoid falling back into the addictive habit of scrolling. What happens after just one day of a complete dopamine detox? If, of course, you don't go back to your old routine the next day? Better focus and motivation. When you stop getting quick dopamine hits, your brain will start to respond better to activities that require effort, improving your ability to concentrate and tackle long-term goals. More joy from simple activities. Thanks to the detox, you may begin to enjoy everyday activities more, like talking with friends, finding a new hobby, or taking a simple walk outside. Improved mental health. Reducing overwhelming stimulation and focusing on natural sources of pleasure can help reduce anxiety, depression, and other emotional issues linked to too much stimulation. Now let's go back to the content you're watching, which is usually fake. It shows an imagined, colorful, perfect world without worries and problems. Girls. You watch idealized, fake versions of other girls in social media and want to become that girls, which doesn't even exist. This lowers your self-esteem and creates huge insecurities that sometimes we can't cope with. All of us compare our lives to what we see on social media because it's full of fake content that we want to copy, and it's impossible to list even a fraction of it. This content makes us feel like we're not enough. No wonder if we compare Instagram with everyday life and try to be as rich, attractive, and successful like theirs. Comparing yourself to others has become a problem of our times. Every picture, every video seems better than what we have in real life. We started living in fear of being judged. The pandemic made these problems worse. Instead of looking for connections with peers, we started consuming content from strangers and copying them, following what's trendy and popular. Today, if something goes viral, reaching most social media users, it becomes a new trend that we feel we must follow. This means that instead of thinking about what we actually like, we blindly follow trends. And even young kids who get their first phone in elementary school are affected. We need to be aware of these dangers. It's time to cut down scrolling to a minimum. Try a one-day dopamine detox and use your phone mindfully. Each time you reach for social media, stop for a moment and think of other ways to spend that time. It could be talking to someone, reading a book in bed before sleep, or even just having a moment for yourself, for your thoughts.